You well.
Great.
Hi.
And hi, sorry, but I didn't receive the link for the lesson today. So Gabriela had to forward the link to me. But anyway, okay. So in the meantime, while we are waiting for other people to join, do you have any question about the previous modules? Okay. Good morning, Juan. And maybe Gabriela, you could put again the link to the Zenodo slides and then switch your mic off because we are hearing some noises. Thank you. So any question on the previous lesson? Let's see in the chat. No. Okay. Okay, so Gabriela kindly put the link to the slides in Zenodo. So now you have in the chat, you have the link to the slides. I've already uploaded the slides of the second module of today, which will be about sorry, one moment. Okay. Let me just, while we are waiting because we are just 11. Last time we were 16, I think, 15, I don't remember. So maybe we can wait, we can still wait a few more minutes. And I'm going to close the door because if not, someone will knock while we are talking.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
I just connected to see if everything was in order. Did you start yet?
No, we are still waiting for some people to join because we are 11.
Okay.
And yeah.
The final list of recipients that received the reminder this morning was 36 people.
Okay.
So maybe waiting a few more minutes would be okay.
Yeah, Gabriela, there is Yolanda asking if you can put again the link to the slides because she had some problems and had to got out from the chat. Thank you so much. And yes, indeed, anytime I add the slides of the next module, but actually today is the last one. So next time I will create another one for the FAIR module on data management and open data and so on. So you will have another link. I would start because if not, it will be late and it's not correct and it's not fair for people who already joined. Good morning, everyone. I'm Elena Giglia. I work at the University of Turin as head of the Open Science Unit. And last time we saw something about why we need open science, so why the current scholarly communication system is not working. And we started seeing some principles of open science. So, I mean, we started with the theory. Why open science is a human right, the right to access knowledge and something like this. And we started also with something about European policies because we saw that European Commission is strongly pushing in favor of open science. We will have a specific lesson on open science in Horizon Europe, which is the funding schema, the funding program of the European Commission on March 27. But let me share the slides of today just to recap. Why is it so slow this morning? Okay, I guess you can see the slides now. And if I correctly remember, Claudio is going to record. Is it right?
Yeah, I started the recording.
Okay, perfect. So the lesson will be recorded. If you don't want your name to be published or to be shown up, simply keep your mic and camera off. So again, good morning. This is the second module. Last time we focused on the why we need open science, and today we will focus on how. This is the link to the slide in Zenodo, but Gabriela kindly put it in the chat. Housekeeping, like last time, please mute your mic. As we have just seen that the lesson will be recorded, so if you make some noise, you will spoil for future listeners. There will be a break after the first part. Actually, I think that today we are going to have two breaks because we are having three, a sort of, three different modules. And the questions will be taken at the end of each part. Of course, if you have any particular curiosity or any question while I will be speaking, you can just type them into the chat and we will read during the break. So what are we going to see? Last time we saw why we need open science and what is open science in theory. Today we are going to focus on open science in practice. So open science tools plus a focus on open access because open access seems still to be an issue with researchers. Next time we will see data management and why should we care about our data. And on March 13, we will see the difference between fair data, open data, and how to write a data management plan. And on March 27, we will see open science in Horizon Europe or in Horizon Europe is mandatory to adapt open science practices to your project proposal. And actually, you will be evaluated on how you adapt open science proposal in Horizon Europe. So in this module, we learn that open science is just science done right and how you can open up every step of the research process. as take-home messages, I would say you are not alone. And this is a very important message, as nowadays doing open science might seem not easy for you, but you are not alone. There is a community out there, mostly a community of early career researchers, because they are not satisfied with how scholarly communication is done nowadays. So they are trying to change how things are done. And then another important message is open science cannot be done overnight, from 0 to 100%. So take it one step at a time. You can start with just one practice and then improve, and then going for the second one, the third one, the fourth one, and again. So take it one step at a time, but give it a try. So let's do the first step. I would say not tomorrow, but today, because if not, nothing will change anytime. We saw last time that cultural change is needed, but cannot be an alibi. So you can't wait for the rules to change to simply practice open science and to open up your research. So give it a try. A reminder, but I've already said it. Why should we care? Because in Horizon Europe, in the application template, you need to state how you will adapt and adopt open science practices. We will see on March 27 that you have mandatory practices and you have recommended practices, and you will be evaluated on both. This is quite a difference with respect to Horizon 2020, because in Horizon 2020, you just had an obligation when the project had been funded. Okay, now in order to be funded, you need to show the Commission that your project will be open. So open science is one of the assessment criteria, the ex ante assessment criteria to fund your project proposal. And again, why we need open science? Because it does not work the way it is now. Look at these two examples. One is quite old, because in 2018, an article was published, which is the future of open science, and actually it's paywalled, so you have to pay to get the PDF. And last week, it's really unbelievable, but she is a student, a PhD student, and she tweeted, "It's here. A student's guide to open science has landed on my doorstep, a perfectly sized pocket guide to the replication crisis and open science reform. I am so proud of what this book represents. Unfortunately, this book is not open. So you can't access the book unless you pay for it," which is really nonsense, okay? All the more so because it's a student guide to open science, which is really nonsense. If you remember, we already saw this rainbow made by Bianca Kramer and Jerome Bosman of the University of Utrecht. They divided the research workflow into 7 steps, meaning the initial hypothesis, the research of your data, the analysis of your data, writing the conclusions, publishing them, disseminating them, and being evaluated. And as you can see on the right part of the rainbow, for each and any of these research steps, you have one or more tools to open it up. So my take-home message at the beginning, you can take one step at a time. You can choose the easiest step that you can perform today, but give it a try. So start with a first step, and then a second, then a third, and then you can open up the entire workflow. Because as you can see here in this tweet by John Tennant, again, small steps can make a big difference. Okay, so it's up to you. It depends also on you how open scholarly communication can become. And this is another message from an open science course I just took in the past months, the open life sciences. It will come time and again this morning. What open science dreams will you achieve? So again, it's up to you. Every research is different. Every researcher is different. So you might want to start, for instance, just by sharing your bibliography, or just by pre-registering your study, sharing your data, sharing your protocol, or simply self-archiving the author's accepted manuscript, or using an open license, sharing a poster, or whatever you see in this slide. But it's important that you choose one practice, and then you start practicing open science on a daily basis. And this is another very important message. Open science practices are compatible with career advancement. You can do it right now. Even, or I would say, notwithstanding the current reform, the current evaluation criteria, because what the current evaluation criteria ask you to do is to publish in the highest impact factor journal. They do not prevent you from going for any of the practice we saw in the open science rainbow, meaning they don't prevent you in sharing a poster, or in sharing your research data, or in pre-registering your experiment, or in self-archiving your author-accepted manuscript. You can do anything that you can see in the rainbow, in the open science rainbow, without harming your career. Okay, I want this to be clear, because usually the common reaction of researchers after listening and after attending the open science module, yes, everything is very nice, but we are still evaluated on the highest impact factor journal, which, by the way, we saw last time in an extensive way, I would say, is no longer true, because now we have the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment, and so even the research assessment criteria are changing, okay? And for instance, the University of Turin signed the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. The national agency in Italy, ANVUR, signed the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. So the process is ongoing. You no longer will be evaluated on the highest impact factor journal, but anyway, even now, when you are evaluated on the highest impact factor journal, you can do any of the research of the open science practices without harming your career. I really want this message to be clear, okay? You can do it right now without harming your career. I want it to be clear, and I hope it is clear. So just to go in practical on how to do open science, another word is possible. Yes, of course, another word is possible. You need to, I would say, have a change in your mindset, because a good scholarly communication means good governance, open standards, fair data collection, open content, easy migration. I mean, even when you use a proprietary tool, a proprietary software, this is not good. And also transparent pricing and contracts. And that's very important when you deal with journal subscription, okay? So everything should be transparent. When you pay for a journal, you should know what services you are going to pay for. Basically, doing open science is another way of doing research. As you can see here, this is a paper published by John Ioannidis from the University of Stanford, if I correctly remember. It was published in 2014, and it was a sort of take two of his first paper, which is worldly famous, which is why most research published is false. Okay, and so the title is How to Make More Published Research True. And as you can see here, you see a lot of, let's say, open science practices, which is collaborative research, registration of studies protocols. Registration, I mean the pre-registration, okay? The sharing of data, protocols, material, software, and so on. Improvements in peer review reporting and dissemination of research. So basically anything that we are going to discuss is a way to improve how science is done. And if you remember, last time we discussed one of the benefits of open science is in the first place for science itself. Because if you make all your process transparent, all the methodology transparent, all the data available, you will get a sounder science, okay? Because everything is transparent. In order to have another word, you need to be responsible. So please go and refer to the European Code of Conduct for Research Integrity. And you see that the principle of responsible research are reliability, honesty, respect, and accountability. And if you want to need more about responsible research, you have the responsible research and innovation toolkit, and also a lot of tools coming from the Horizon Europe program guide. To make science in a different way, you need to be reproducible, okay? If you want to read the Manifesto for Reproducible Science or to go for any of the publication of Marcus Munafo and Brian Nosek, they are really the champions of reproducible science. Please mute your mic because I hear some noises. So the recording will be spoiled for future listeners. Thank you. And then you have the framework for open and reproducible research training. And of course, you have the Turing Way. The Turing Way is a handbook, a complete handbook for open and reproducible science. It will come now and again during the presentation this morning. And from now on, we are going to see some tools that you might need. Because the problem is every research is different. So there is no recipe. I can show you many tools. You have to find the more suitable for your research, the more applicable to your kind of research, depending on your field, depending if you are in the humanities, if you are in the hard sciences. But the principle here should be that you have to share your data and research output, and by output I mean anything, not only publication. Any piece of your research is a research output. Please refer to Paola Masuzzo's manifesto. Everything from your initial hypothesis to the final output is a research output, okay? So you need to share them as early, fair, and open as possible, okay? This is the principle guiding you, meaning that not all data can be open. We will see we'll discuss it thoroughly next time. You need to share them as early, fair, and open as possible. If you need to keep them closed, you are perfectly in the right to do so, but the default should be set on open. Okay, you need to keep them closed only when you have reasonable I would say motivations, okay, to keep them closed. If you want only the links to all the tools, please refer to this project on the open science framework. You will just have the link, okay, to the tools we are going to see. And if you need something more, you can refer to the UNESCO toolkit, which, by the way, is useful also if you want to go for an open science policy in your institution, or the Open Science Training Handbook, which is really a complete handbook on doing open science. This was the course I referred to a few moments ago, Open Life Sciences. I attended it, the sixth cohorts. Now they are going for the 7, and there are 2 calls every year. So now they are ongoing. The 7 cohort. It's long lasting because it's like 6 months. But in the end, I would say it's very useful, also because of the community sense that it creates. And then, if you want, the Vrije University in Amsterdam, they created this Open Science in Practice webinar series. Again, short videos on how to do open science, as you can see here: interoperable open research, open journals, and non-profit publication infrastructure, and so on. So you have a lot of material out there if you want to go open. The important message here: you need to be open from day one, or I would say from day 0. So from the day you plan your research, because if you are not planning sharing, if you are not planning, for instance, co-creation from the beginning, it would be useless in the end. Okay, so without planning, you will have limited sharing options, limited co-creation options, and limited collaboration options. So you should start from day 0 or from day -1, okay, in planning your open science tools and your open science path. And as you can see here, the idea of your project would be starting with openness in mind from day one. That was the point behind this Open Life Science program, which I attended and I can recommend you. And as you can see here, you have a research workflow open by design. So it should be designed, built and empowered for understanding, sharing, and participation and inclusion, as you can see in the slide. So whenever you plan a new research, you should focus and you should reflect on all these aspects in order to properly do open science and to properly be open by design. In the Turing Way handbook, as you can see here, you will find a guide for project design. As you can see here, file naming, for instance, we will see it next time. You will see a guide for collaboration and a guide for ethical research. So again, the Turing Way is a good way to plan and to start planning your research open by design. Then you can share some recipes, as you can see. You can go, if you want simply to store and disseminate your research in an open way, you can think about creating a community on Zenodo. Zenodo is the same repository in which you will find the slides of this course. It's completely for free, open to anyone, powered by CERN in Geneva, so completely reliable. It's powered by the CERN in Geneva and OpenAir, the OpenAir infrastructure. As you can see here, if you open a community, this is the community of Operas, the research infrastructure the University of Turin is partner of. So basically, you can put all your research output in this, let's say, cluster within Zenodo. But this is fitting only for storing and disseminating your research. If you want to create a proper open research project, meaning also to collaborate with your partners, with your colleagues, maybe it's better to go for Open Science Framework. You create a project, on the Open Science Framework. You can upload, data, publications, you can collaborate, you can comment. And if you go for the Open Science Framework, please choose the server based in Hamburg and not the server based in the US because of GDPR reasons. Sorry for the voice today. Another way, and I would say the best way to go to start an open by design research is to use GitHub. If you go for GitHub, I always, before taking the Open Life Science course, I always consider GitHub only to be a repository for software, okay? Just used by geek people or developers or something like this. I was wrong because GitHub is a perfect environment for collaboration, is a perfect environment for your research, because you also have tools like, for instance, a checklist of the actions. So it's a sort of project management tool. Okay. And of course you can share, so you can assign some actions to the team who is doing what and something like this. You can share data, you can store data, you can store software, you can store texts, you can collaborate, and of course you have a version tracking. So GitHub is really an interesting tool if you want to go open. And here you can find a video explaining the basic features of GitHub for collaboration. You have a complete training on the Mozilla Open Leaders course, and you have a specific section of the Turing Way handbook on GitHub. And as you can see here, it's really a step-by-step guide, like create a GitHub account, create a repository, which features of GitHub you can use to foster collaboration, and so on. So this would be my recommendation if you want to start a project which is open by default. Or you can go for a virtual research environment. You have different, options. For instance, D4Science is offering virtual research environments. The project Parthenos is offering virtual research environment, which is really a virtual environment in which researchers can collaborate, share data, share text, software, basically anything, okay? So this is another good suggestion. What is important, as I was saying, is to open every step as early and fair as possible, okay? And here you have a good example in practice. It's a sort of report of a project, and is written by Annalisa Minelli and Alessandro Sarretta, who really are champions of open research. As you can see here, following the same initial hypothesis, the research idea was published in Rio Journal. And then for every step of the research, they show you the tool they use to open up the step, okay? So this is a good example if you want to see how open science is done in practice. This is another one about reliance, and as you can see here, you can also find a demo showing what Reliance project has achieved on Open Science Fair and the European Open Science Cloud, okay? So this is another practical example. When you start your project open by design, you might consider starting with a bit of co-creation, bearing in mind that even in Horizon Europe, and we will see on March 27, even in Horizon Europe, co-creation is one of the most appreciated open science practices in Horizon Europe. So you will be positively evaluated in Horizon Europe if you go for co-creating your project. By co-creation, we mean the idea of associating with strategic partners, which can be customers, citizens, other researchers, basically anyone, to have a new, let's say, to create a new project or to solve a problem, to improve performance, to create a new product, a service or business, basically whatever, okay? And in this project Orion, you have a co-creation menu, which is really useful and helpful because it has more than 30 co-creation practices. So maybe you can find the one suitable for your project. And then you also have this report, moving forward together with open science towards meaningful public engagement with research, okay? Because a real co-creation is not just engaging a citizen science or a citizens association in your research, is really asking them how to proceed, how to co-create your research project. Speaking of citizen science again is highly appreciated in Horizon Europe, is, I would say, the way forward in science. It's not only about citizen collecting data, for instance, on bird migration, is about participating in your research, and it's about a process. Okay, as you can see here, it's citizens participating in the process of knowledge generation. Okay, so this dimension of process is really important. If you want to know more about citizen science, please refer to this University of London Citizen Science, or to the European Citizen Science web portal, which is the portal in which you will find also citizen science project ongoing now, project in which you can collaborate as simple citizens. And if you want to know more about citizen science in the humanities, you can refer to the page on the Parthenos project. If you want to co-design citizen science, you can refer to this Cost for Cloud website to learn how to use co-design in citizen science. And you have this infographic, it's here to help you. If you need a platform for co-creation, the research infrastructure offers through this project, which is called COESO, which is an Horizon Europe project. We are developing this Vera platform, which is the platform to activate research, meaning that it's a platform to create a sort of dialogue among researchers and society, okay? It's still in the beta version, but we are developing it, and please refer also to this platform. To go open by design, you need to open up the entire cycle of your research, starting from pre-registration. What is pre-registration? It means that you pre-register your study, your research. You set and you state your initial hypothesis, you state the methodology, you state which is your target, okay? It's something that in the medical field had been done for ages because they register clinical trials, for instance. Why is it so important pre-registering? Look at this tweet by Marcus Munafo. If we are going to fly an airplane, we do our pre-flight checks before we take off and not when we are about to land, of course, so you will be happier, okay, to do your pre-flight check before taking off. And that's the same in science. And you can use Open Science Framework registries or this other website called As Predicted. Why is it so important pre-registration? If you remember what we said last time about data falsification, data fabrication, retractions, which are, I would say, a plague in the current scholarly communication system, that's why it's so important to pre-register your research, your study, because you state clearly what is your hypothesis, what you are going to do and what you are expecting to achieve. Then it's much more difficult to falsify data because you state what you are going to do. It's much more difficult not to publish negative results, because if you state an hypothesis and a methodology and the result is zero, then you have to publish that the result is zero, okay? You can't adjust your initial hypothesis like many researchers do right now, simply to publish positive results, okay? And we said that negative results are as important, if not much more important than positive results, okay? And if you think of it, if you pre-register your study, you get scientific priority on it, because anyone in the world will know that starting from February 27, you are the one dealing with this kind of research. Okay, it's a sort of, digital stamp of your research. If you are not convinced about pre-registration, please go and look at this explanation on PhD on Track. It's really anything you want to know about pre-registration. And also in the humanities. You can use Humanities Commons, which is a sort of knowledge hub for the humanities, to pre-register your study, to create a community, to create a group, simply to discuss your hypothesis, your idea, or to share your idea with others. You can also start publishing every bit of your research and then connecting them. For instance, you have this new tool created by a researcher at the University of Oxford, which is called Octopus. As you can see here, you can publish every bit of your research. You get a DOI, a digital object identifier. Then you connect the bit, and then maybe you publish a paper or not. It's not important anymore. What is important is that you publish every bit of your research. As you can see here in the description, you establish priority, you record your work, okay? And then if you want, you can collect all the components and you can publish them, okay? So it's really important not to wait until you have the paper, the final paper done in order to share your research. Remember the definition of open science: as early and open as possible, okay? To have open science, of course, you need open access to texts, but we will have an entire module on open access after this one, so I won't get into details. The important message here is that you have two-way depositing and publishing. Usually people tend to think that open access is only publishing in journals, but actually what saves your career is depositing, and we will see in details in the next module. To do so, you need to be aware of your rights. And Plan S, we will discuss Plan S later, is coming to the rescue because they issued this right retention strategy, meaning that the rights are yours. Even in Italian, the law is different, is diritto d'autore, and the same is in France and in every Roman right country. Your intellectual production is yours, okay? Don't give it away. Don't sign copyright transfer agreement without reading or without maintaining the right to self-archive, for instance, your publication. And if you are not, I would say, aware of your rights, please take your quiz. You will find it on Plan S website, and you have the link right here. You need to keep your rights, okay? So keep calm and don't give away your rights. We should shift from a copyright environment in which all rights are reserved, and we will discuss copyright in detail in dealing with data and with open access in the next module. And we need to shift towards a Creative Commons environment in which some rights are reserved, and it's up to you as the author to decide which rights you maintain. Of course, the by, so the attribution rights is always is always there, and then you can reserve other rights. If not, anything, and this is the point, because I would say that the internet spoiled us, because you think that everything you find on the web, it's there to be reusable, and that's not the case. Actually, everything is out there is under copyright. So whenever you find a photograph, whenever you find an image, whenever you find a paper, unless you find a Creative Commons license, it is under copyright. So you should and you must ask the author the permission to reuse it. This is a very important point, because really the web spoiled us. We think that we find and we use. We find, we must ask permission, and then we can reuse. So this is a very important point. If the author applied a Creative Commons license, we are allowed to reuse without asking. On day one, I told you, here are my slides. As you can see, they have a Creative Commons license. Feel free to reuse, provided that you quote me as the author, okay? And that's it. You don't have to ask me to use my slides. You don't have to ask me to use my background photos, because they are all available with a Creative Commons license. Here are the Creative Commons licenses. As you can see, you have 4 principles. By attribution is always there, meaning that you can do whatever you want with my slides, provided that you quote me as the author. Share alike principle means that you have to distribute any other work with an identical license as mine. Non-commercial should be really well understood, okay? In the first place, I used to put my photos on Flickr, which is the photo repository, with a Creative Commons non-commercial license, because my idea was, if I'm not selling my photos, why should anyone else could sell my photo, okay? But it's a wrong assumption, okay? Because non-commercial is not about the first use. It's about reuse. I mean, my photos are available online, okay? And they are really available online. They are available anyway. If you can sell something that it's available for free, chapeau, you are a genius, okay? So it's not about my original photo, it's about the reuse. And do you know who are the users, the main users of my photos? People publishing touristic guides, because I'm very I'm very lucky, because I travel a lot by work and by pleasure, and I like taking photos. So many people publishing touristic guides, they are using my photos. They are using my photos. I know, because they are citing me as the author. Maybe the touristic guide will be sold, okay? Not my single photo, because nobody is going to sell a photo that is available for free online. If I put a non-commercial clause, they can't use my photo for the touristic guide. Let's think of it with another example. We have at the University of Turin a journal which is called Ciceroniana Online, which of course it's about Cicero. They at the beginning, they wanted to apply a non-commercial license. And then we reflected together, thinking about a third party in Europe, starting gathering material to create and maybe to sell a database on Cicero. The database will be sold, not the initial paper, which is available for free in any case on our website. If they put a non-commercial license and the database, so the reuse work is going to be sold, the paper cannot be included because of the non-commercial license, because the reuse work will be sold, not the original one, which anyway is available for free on our website. I hope it's clear. If not, we can discuss it more during the Q&A during the break, okay? And as you can see, you are going from a most free license to a least free license. Beware, because when you pay for open access to commercial publishers often require a Creative Commons by non-commercial, non-derivative works license, which is the least free license, okay? So again, negotiate with commercial publishers, because if you pay, and only if you pay when you pay for open access, you should go for a really open license, which is the CC BY, Creative Commons Attribution, okay? If you open up your content, even your text in open access, you are tearing down walls and you are enabling services. We already mentioned last time Unpaywall. Unpaywall is an extension in Chrome and Firefox. Whenever you hit a paywall, meaning that you try to download a journal paper, you can't, because your library is not paying this huge amount of money. We said last time, the University of Turin is spending every year 4.4 million euros in subscriptions. So if your library is not paying, you can't access the paper, you go to Unpaywall, and Unpaywall is looking on the web if the original author deposited the legally allowed version in a repository, like at the University of Turin we have Aperto. You might have your institutional repository in your universities, or you can put your stuff on Zenodo. Unpaywall is looking anywhere if they find a legally deposited version. And I underline a legally deposited version because, of course, ResearchGate and academia.edu, they have illegal, sometimes they have illegal PDFs, so they are not legally deposited. You can enable services like OpenAir Graph, which is a sort of, knowledge hub, because it's a graph. So basically, it creates link between your paper, the data set, the citation, and so on. It's quite a service provided by OpenAir. And here you can see Paolo Manghi, the Chief Technology Officer of OpenAir. And it works only if the original author deposited the legally allowed version of her or his work. At the University of Turin, we enabled this PubMed link out service. I don't know if you know PubMed, if you are familiar with PubMed. PubMed is the database commonly used in the biomedical field. If a researcher goes to PubMed and can't find the paper he or she is interested in because it's paywalled, if our researchers deposited in Aperto, which is our institutional repository, they can access the open access version in Aperto, okay? And look at how many downloads we got since we started this service, which is more than 500,000, with a medium download of 8,100 per month, okay? Which means for you as author that you are much more visible that only publish in a paywall journal, okay? Because these 8,000 people couldn't have read and maybe cite your paper because it was not available for them, okay? So this is, again, a way of enabling services of being more readable and maybe more citable from other researchers. In open science, you can also go for a new discoverability. For instance, Open Knowledge Map, if you have ever tried, you should try, because with difference to Google Scholar, which gives you back a list of 2 million records sorted in any possible way, without a criterion, you will get a cluster of results, and you will get immediate access, as you can see here, immediate access to open access publications in there. You can also link research and industry. If you go to this web, no, it's not a web, it's a search engine, is a platform, lens.org, in which you can, in the same place, you can search for scholarly literature, patents, biosamples, basically anything you can see here, conference type, conference proceedings, and all the same. Okay, so it's really a one-stop shop for your research. Of course, linking to the open version whenever possible. In open science, you should publish negative results. As we already discussed, negative results are more important, I would say, than positive results. As you can see here, you have the Journal of Trial and Error, and look at the motto of the Journal of Trial and Error: science fails, let's publish, okay? Because negative results are crucial, not only for researchers, because, we have already said it, if you don't know that this experiment with this specific methodology or settings doesn't turn out, doesn't achieve anything, you might ask to be funded twice for the same. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of public money, because we are publicly funded universities. So that's why negative results are so important, because if not, it's a waste of time and public money. You can publish not only texts in Zenodo, which is the repository in which you find the slide. You can publish videos, you can publish dataset, you can publish software, because it's linked to GitHub, which is the repository, the specific repository for software. But as we saw at the beginning, it's also the perfect tool to collaborate. In Zenodo, you can publish also, I don't know, basically anything, okay? Presentations, posters, whatever. For instance, why don't you think about a video abstract of your research, which means 3 minutes of you telling normal people what your research is about, or telling colleagues, so with a more specific language, what your research is about, okay? That could be a great way to disseminate your research. Then you have protocols.io, which is a specific repository for protocols, and you have Workflow Hub, which is a specific repository for workflows, okay? So you can publish every single bit of your research. And why should you do it? Because you get a DOI, you get a digital object identifier, you become citable, and you basically, every step of your research will become a building block of your research, can be reusable also by other. And for instance, when you're writing your journal paper, you can simply recall your methodology saying the experiment followed the methodology as described in, and then you put the DOI of the, for instance, of Workflow Hub or Zenodo or whatever, and you don't have to rewrite the entire methodology or the entire protocol. So again, it's time saving, and the methodology or the protocol can be reusable also by others. You should publish not only articles. I don't know if you are familiar with preprints or if you have ever used preprints. Preprints are not only the first step in open access, as we will see in a few moments in the next module. They are, I would say, an independent channel of publishing your research. And they became, I would say, crucial during the pandemic, during the COVID pandemic. As you can see here, preprints accelerate science, and the pandemic accelerate the use of preprint. They proved so vital for sharing information about COVID-19 that it will be likely become a mainstay of modern biomedical research, because then you get immediate publication of your research. You get scientific priority, like pre-registration. And if you think of it, there is no this black hole about the post submission, okay? When you submit a paper, I think it was one of you telling us a story last time during the Q&A of a paper basically being stolen after it was submitted and rejected, okay? So you avoid this black hole because your preprint is out there for the entire community to be commented on. Okay, so if you think about scholarly communication as a great conversation, preprints enable the conversation. And if you think of it about from a research assessment perspective, you no longer have this this box to refer to. If you recall the the keynote from Robert Terry that we mentioned at the beginning last time, he said that publishing in the highest impact factor journal is like being awarded a gold medal without even running the race. Okay, so it's really important to avoid this black hole and to avoid to have a box to refer to, okay? So when you publish a preprint, you need to focus on the content, okay? You don't have anything to refer to. If you want to know more about preprints, you have this practical guide to preprints. Again, in every slide, you will find the link. And you also have this server, kiosk, which is a wonderful place to put your preprint on, or if you can look to a preprint server in your discipline. Here you have the directory of preprint server. Also in the humanities. Don't think that the humanities are excluded from this process. So you have preprints server also in the humanities. Again, you should not publish only articles. Why not publishing an open notebook? Open notebook, I would say, are really the future of scholarly communication because basically they contain everything. They contain narrative as text, so you can describe your methodology. They contain data. They contain executable code. So for instance, if here I change one of the parameters, the figure will change accordingly, okay? So it's real-time research, and they contain everything. So why should you publish a journal paper and then a data set in another place, a methodology in another place, a protocol in another place? You publish everything in your open notebook, you work on it. So it's basically a research environment, okay? And it can be open for the benefit of everyone. it really can be the future of scholarly communication. So I would say that we no longer need journal. Again, it's not only my idea, as you can see here. Journals are old and flawed. Let's use open notebooks, living documents instead of fossils. Okay, so this is a great paper published in the Guardian some months ago. Okay, but if you think of it, the journals were suitable for the paper age. Now we are on the web age, so we should use a different channel, a different way of disseminating and creating our research. And also in the humanities. Again, don't think that the humanities are excluded. You can also have this example of lab notebook for humanities. With fair data, we will have 2 modules the next 2 Mondays on data management and fair data. For the time being, to be findable, you need metadata and persistent identifiers. To be accessible, you need trusted repositories and you need open formats. To be interoperable, you need ontologies and standards. To be reusable, you need licenses and documentation. And I start saying it now, and I will repeat it again and again. Accessible does not mean open. Accessible only means that you have to know where to find the data and under what access conditions, okay? And here you can find the 2 reference paper. One is the FAIR Guiding Principles, and the other one is FAIR Principles Interpretation and Implementation Considerations. So you will find everything about FAIR data. Again, also in the humanities, you have this report by the ALEA Association, Sustainable and Fair Data Sharing in the Humanities, and we will cite it now and again during the 2 next modules. To deal with your data, you will have you should and must have a data management plan. We will have a specific module on data management plan on the 20th of March. No, it's March 13th. Sorry, it's the second lesson about data. Also because in Horizon Europe is mandatory. Because now we have the EOSC, we have the European Open Science Cloud, which was launched in 2018 in this beautiful library in Vienna. And unfortunately, it's still unknown, at least in Italy. But the Open Science Cloud is a seamless environment for your data, which must be fair by default, okay? And we will discuss it thoroughly during the next 2 lessons. In open science, you should go for no more journals, but publishing platforms. I don't know if you are familiar with Open Research Europe. Open Research Europe is the publishing platform, not a journal, provided by the European Commission if you are funded in Horizon 2020 or in Horizon Europe. It is done on the model of the Welcome Open Research. So it's a platform, it's no longer a journal in which you can publish your article linked to the data, to the protocol, to basically whatever you perform open peer review. We will see discussing Horizon Europe. Again, no more journals. This is another platform which I particularly like. It was created by Chris Artegrink, who is one of the open science champion. The name of the platform is Research Equals. What I particularly like here is that if you go for a CC0 or a CC BY license, you don't pay anything. If you want to keep it closer, I mean more closed, you have to pay. Okay, and this was the same idea launched in 2016 by Baron Mons, meaning that if you openly share, you don't pay anything. If you want to keep close, and the more close you want to keep, the more you pay, as you can see in the table here. I think this is a great idea. You can also build new publication strategy based on why you have to publish, what you have to publish, when, how, and where. This is another interesting tool created by Bianca Kramer and Jeroen Bosman, which can also be useful in Horizon Europe. You can write in a different way and you can annotate in a different way. You can use these tools for collaborative writing. Authoria and Overleaf I used to suggest you to use these tools. Unfortunately, they are no longer open because they were bought by Elsevier and by Taylor and Francis or Nature. I don't remember which one of the main groups. But anyway, they are here to be used. And then you have these annotation tools, Hypothesis or Pandit. They are really powerful because you can annotate basically every web page. Imagine how powerful it is, even for a lesson, for your students. You put the annotation on the same web page. It's like, for ancient philologists to find a glossa on a manuscript. It's quite the same, but on the web, we can do it in an easy way. You can go for open peer review. As you can see here is a meta example, because this is a paper on open peer review. And here you can see on the right side that it underwent open peer review. You can read the report of the reviewers. You can cite them because they get a DOI. And why shouldn't you? Because reviews are pieces of knowledge. And then why shouldn't you be evaluated on how many reviews you performed? Because you are asked to review a paper only if you are the expert of the field. So the more reviews, the more you are recognized as the expert. But you can't count them in your CV because they are anonymous at the moment. In blind peer review, nobody knows that you are the reviewer, okay? Instead, if you go for open peer review, everyone can know that you are the reviewer. Everyone can cite your paper, your review report, because you get a DOI, you become citable, okay? If you want to know more about the benefits of open peer review, bearing in mind that open peer review is one of the recommended practice in Horizon Europe, we will see, and it's positively evaluated in Horizon Europe for your project proposal. If you want to see open peer review in practice, you can have a look at this journal published by Copernicus, which is a German publisher, Atmospheric Chemistry and Physics. They give the same paper, the submitted paper, to the two anonymous reviewers, like in blind peer review, normal peer review, and then they put for 8 weeks the paper openly available for the comments. And Ulrich Perschel presented this in several conferences, and he always told us that open comments always are more constructive than closed one, okay? Even also because you have to, of course, to register, to put a comment, so it's clear who is saying what, so you tend to be always are more constructive than closed one, okay? Even also because you have to, of course, to register, to put a comment, so it's clear who is saying what, so you tend to be more constructive in your comments. Or you can go for independent peer review, meaning that a lot of publishers are asking now, when you submit a paper, to associate to the paper a report done by independent reviewers. You have these two, for instance, two services like pre-review or peer community, where you submit your preprint and then you get an independent peer review outside a journal. But now many journals are outsourcing this service in this way. Or you can go for post peer review, again, this is the idea of scholarly communication as a great conversation. Okay, PubPeer is the service to comment articles in PubMed. You can share bibliographies and virtual collections on Zotero or on this service on virtual collections. You can share an e-talk, which is a hybrid between a presentation and a video and something like this. But again, innovation in sharing your talk. Of course, you should go for open educational resources. This is something that even at the University of Turin we should discuss. You should go for disseminating in a different way. And here you have a paper on 10 steps to innovative dissemination of your paper. You can also communicate in a different way. And again, the Turing way has an entire section on a guide for communication to be effective in communicating your research. You also have this CAST project toolkit in order to better communicate science. This is a very good tool because it was created by communication experts. You also should have in mind a different idea of social impact. Have you ever drafted a Wikipedia entry on your research topic? Because this is the best way to be, I would say, to disseminate your science even outside academia. And if you are Italian speaking or if you understand Italian, you can refer to this video we recorded back in November when we held a workshop here at the University of Turin on how to draft an entry in Wikipedia. As we were saying at the beginning, a community is out there, so you are not alone. The community is important, and you can create an open science community within your institution. Okay, you have this open science community starter kit, bearing in mind that in every university in the Netherlands, they already have the open science community made only by researchers. So it's not a library thing. It's based on researchers sharing their practice or sharing their challenges, their difficulties, and helping each other in going open. If you need more toolkit, you have the Foster training courses. They are short modules on each step of open science, which we saw today. You have the open air, open science primers, getting started on good practices. You have, this is in French, sorry, this is in English, but created by the French initiative Ouvrir la Science. And you also have a MOOC, as you can see here, an entire online course on open science and its components. So in the end, whose side are you on? This is a movie ad, which I saw some years ago, quoting a Chinese say, when the winds of change blow, some people build walls and other build windmills. So my question to you is, whose side are you on? And I thank you for your attention. And now we are ready to take questions. I can stop sharing if I... Did I manage to stop sharing? Great. So any question? Let me check in the chat if you had something while I was talking. No? Okay. Any question? Just a noise. Juan, can you mute your mic? Because we are hearing a lot of noise. Thank you. Unless you want to go for a question. Okay, if you don't have any question, I would go for a break. I would say 15 minutes, so we can go back. We can be back at 10 past 11. Okay. Bye. See you later. Okay, welcome back. If in the meanwhile you have any question, because you know when you have no question, you can have the doubt that either everything was clear or nothing was clear. So it's not so good as a trainer to have no question. It's a bit worrying, but anyway, that's the way it is. So I can share my screen again because I would ask you to go to Mentimeter. You already used Menti last time. I think you can see the Menti. Gabriela, can you see the Menti now? Is anybody there? Maybe not. Maybe we can wait some more minutes. Okay, you can see the slides, but you should see the Menti, right? Are you seeing the Menti now? Can you see the Menti? Yes, okay. So please go to the Menti and use the code A3964739. As you can see in the screen, on the screen, because there are some questions for you, just to compare with the previous one. So how would you rate now at the end of these two modules on open science, your knowledge on open science? It's again ground zero, beginner, intermediate, or expert. Because you know, open science was now done. Now we are going to focus on open access and on European policies. Okay, we have one intermediate, two intermediate. Three people connected. So the website is www.menti.com. The code is 83964739. We have 4 people, 1 beginner and 3 intermediate. And for the person who put in a beginner, please, if you can drop me an email and telling what you would need to improve your knowledge on open science. The second question is 3 concepts that remain after these 2 modules on open science, theory and practice. Here you have to put 3 words and then we will see the word cloud creating. Let's see if it works. Open science is not a barrier to career. That's great. That was the main point. And we will see that the same is true for open access. Let's see if someone else is typing something. Okay. Yeah, go for preprints, make open workflow. Open is not reachable. I don't know what it means. So you can do it. You can't do it. Maybe it's too difficult. Anyway, let's go for the next one, which might be useful for the person who said it's not reachable. Which open science practice is the easiest to adopt in your opinion? And here you have a ranking. Of course, item 11 is not to be considered because it's a mistake. So you have some of the practices: preprint sharing, fair data sharing, open lab notebook, open peer review, pre-registration, publishing negative results, sharing code and software, sharing protocols and methodologies, depositing the accepted version of a paper, which in 2023 should be the norm. Sharing your bibliography, yeah. So let's see your votes. Sharing code and software, great. And again, preprint sharing in the third position. Yeah, that's great. Let's see if we have some more votes. Yes. Great. So in the end, we have sharing your bibliography, depositing the accepted version, preprint sharing and sharing protocols, and publishing negative results. It's in the end. Okay, thank you for sharing your view. Do you think you will be able to apply or practice open science? Yes, no, yes, but it will be difficult. I'll try to do my best. Yes, but it will be difficult. Okay. Let's see other opinions on that. It's also true that with just 3 people, it's not quite representative, but thank you for these 3 people, 4 people now. Yes, so we have one open science champion here. And yes, but it will be difficult. It might be if you are in a team, if you have some disagreement in the team. Yes, I see the difficulties. And this is your, I would say, engagement, or this is your not engagement. Yeah, engagement. Which open science practice are you adopting tomorrow? So it's not that you are thinking to adopt, it's you are adopting tomorrow. So what are you going to do in practice? What will be your first step? Share your bibliography, okay. Preprint sharing and deposit the accepted version of a paper. Depositing the accepted version of a paper it's really done in like 5 minutes. Sharing code, publishing negative results, great. Depositing the accepted version of a paper. And the use of preprint, yeah, the use of preprint it's quite easy because you finish your research, you publish, and that's it. Yeah. Let's see if we have some other. Votes. Yeah, we have 3. Sharing code and software. So great. Preprint, publishing negative results, sharing your bibliography, and also the 4th person voting. Okay, so you commit to start with some step, and that's a good point. Is there still anything that you want to know? Some piece of information or some question, even compared with what you were expecting from the course at the beginning? Let's see if reloading is something missing. If not, okay, we can go on. And I stop sharing this one, and we can go back to the slide. But actually, if I correctly remember, we will have another Menti just to start. Yes. Okay, that was the break, not another one, of course. So this is the module about open access, because I see that open access, which is just a component of open science, it's still quite difficult. And there is still a lot of misconception about open access. We will see how to do open access in the right way. There is also another important message that open at any cost is not an option, in my opinion, and that the so-called diamond open access is here to stay. We will see it. So take-home messages. Open access is also self-archiving, depositing, and not only publishing. This is very important. Open access does not preclude any career advancement or assessment exercise. There is a way, and we will see how. Yes, we should have another Menti now. So let's stop sharing. Let's go again to the Menti and with another code, which I'm showing you in a moment. So the code now is 79354426. 79354426. I see people joining. Okay, what is open access in your words? Your definition of open access. And here is a free text. Make content reachable and reproducible for free. Find literature freely available online. This is very interesting. Find, but how can you find literature if you don't put your stuff online, and not online, but open access? Okay. So this is a strange perspective. because it's your perspective, so you just want to find. But if you don't put your stuff online, nobody will find yours. So it's quite a matter of perspective. The methodology for important researchers: open your research as much as quick as possible, research moving faster. Okay, so I would say that these are all definitions about open science in general, okay, a part of the one about content and literature, okay, because open access is just about text and maybe data, but all your definitions here are about the wider concept of open science. But anyway, they are not right or wrong. Here you have some sentences. Do you agree? And again, you have a vote: 0, I don't agree; 5, I strongly agree. Open access means only publishing in open access journal. Open access means low quality journals. Open access means pay to publish. Open access means predatory publishers. Open access is against copyright. I put everything on ResearchGate, so I don't need anything else. Going for open access will negatively affect my career. Can you tell us if you are, or how much you agree or not with these sentences? Okay, so we have open access means pay to publish, and open access means predatory publishers in the first place. Open access is against copyright. That's very interesting. Open access means pay to publish again. These are the main misconceptions about open access, and we will discuss during the course. Let's wait one more minute because I saw five people connected, so maybe we have 5 votes. No, still 4. Okay. Have you ever deposited your accepted manuscript in an open access repository? I mean, for instance, at the University of Turin, we have Aperto, or you have Zenodo. So 2 people already deposited, and maybe the other 2 no. But let's wait for the vote. Because again, it starts from you. It's not just about finding other people papers. It's about other people finding your paper, as I showed you in the with the PubMed link out. Other researchers are finding the University of Turin papers 8,000 times more since we started this service, which is for free and which any of your universities can start. In which repository, institutional or discipline-based, for those who published? Those who deposited the allowed version. Institutional. Okay, so mainly institutional. Okay. And have you ever deposited data? That's also relevant for our next module about data management and fair data, open data. No, so again, data is more difficult. In which repository for the person who, sorry, in which repository, because it can be basically, so the name of the repository, was it Zenodo or was the institutional repository, or what else? Zenodo and GitHub, great. Thank you. Okay, so this is for the end. So I stop sharing. Don't reply to this one, of course, because it's not possible now. And let's go back to the slides. Okay, thank you for your contribution on open access. Let's start with a definition of open access. This was the Berlin Declaration back in 2003. I would say that nothing changed or changed, or I would say, yeah, nothing changed basically from 2003, or a very few changed. But anyway, the authors and right holders grants to all users a free, irrevocable, worldwide right to access to and a license to copy, use, distribute, transmit, and display the work publicly, and to make and distribute derivative works in any digital medium for any responsible purpose, and I would underline it, subject to proper attribution of authorship. So as you can see here, and that's why I was saying that in the Creative Commons license, the by is always there, because you can do whatever you want with my slides or my photos, subject to proper attribution of authorship. So that's the only constraint. How open access works, we usually at these two definitions of green and gold open access. You might have heard about it. So first of all, green road. Green road means depositing or self-archiving in an institutional repository. So the author self-archives in an open access repository the allowed version of the paper wherever it was published according to publisher copyright policy. This is why I was saying going for open access will not harm your career, because you can publish wherever the current research assessment criteria ask you to publish. Then you go and check your copyright policy and you deposit the allowed version. So this is very important. This is, I would say, the main way to open access, okay? Or used to be the main way to open access, because it's feasible always. It's feasible in 5 minutes of your life. It's always for free. It never costs to deposit. And you enable services like Unpaywall, like the PubMed link out, like Open Knowledge Map, everything we saw in the module of Open Science. Okay, so basically you publish wherever you want, you check the copyright policy, and you deposit in the institutional or in the institutional repository or in Zenodo. This is the only slide, of course, which is not mine, but as you can see, the copyright to Mel Brooks is acknowledged here. You can do it, okay? This is Frankenstein Junior. You can do it, even with the current evaluation criteria. They are not mutually exclusive because, as we were saying at the beginning, they ask you to publish in the highest impact factor journal. They do not prevent you to deposit the allowed version in your repository or to go for any of the open science practice that we saw in the previous module. Even more, in Horizon Europe, you must do it. So it's not that you can do it. In Horizon Europe, you must do it, and we will see in the final module on European funding schema. And the same is true for any step in your research workflow, as we saw in the Open Science Rainbow. To deposit, so to go for the green road, you need to check the copyright policy of your publisher, okay? You have this database, which is internationally known as the copyright database. Sherpa Romeo is the name, is an acronym. I always forget what it means because it has been 20 years that it is there. All the main big publishers allow some form of depositing. Rarely you can deposit the version of record, which is the PDF, the published PDF. More often, you are allowed to deposit the so-called author's accepted manuscript, we will see in a while, with a practical example. And they might ask for a possible embargo. Embargo period is a time in which the paper is deposited in the repository, but it remains in closed access for, let's say, 12 months, 11 months. And then the system will automatically open it, provided that you set the embargo expiry date in the system. Okay, so it's automatically managed. This is how Sherpa Romeo, the results coming from Sherpa Romeo. In this case, you are allowed to deposit the published version only if you pay. So you see the icon of the sterling here. You can deposit the accepted version without any delay, so without embargo, on your author's homepage, without an embargo of 12 months on the institutional repository. So you have to become familiar with the icons and the responses of Sherpa Romeo, because you need to interpret which is the allowed pathway. And as you can see, the preprint, so the submitted version, is always depositable in a preprint repository or without delay. Okay. Here you in this link, no, I forgot to put the link, but anyway, if you go to the website of the University of Turin, you will find a short video guiding you to how to read the clauses in Sherpa Romeo. And please, this is another important message. If you find it difficult, it's not our fault, our meaning the repository manager, okay? These clauses are imposed by the publishers to whom you transferred your rights, okay? Whenever you sign a copyright transfer agreement, you transfer all your rights to the publishers, which is something that you must learn not to do. You should negotiate with the publisher. You should add a clause saying that you maintain the right to deposit to self-archive, okay? And for instance, for Italian authors, sometimes Italian publishers, they do not have a contract. So you don't even sign a contract. And then they want to have their say on what you can do or what you can or can't do. Okay. So they can have their say only if you transferred all your rights. Some definition: the submitted version or the preprint is the file you submit to the journal. It does not contain the reviewer's comments. The author's accepted manuscript or postprint is the final revised version with reviewers' comments, but not the layout of the publisher, meaning the 2 columns, the footnotes at the end of the page, the number of the page, and so on. Basically, is your Word file. In 99% of the cases, this is the version you are allowed to deposit. And then you have the so-called version of record, which is the actual published version with the publisher layout. The embargo period, so this period in which the paper is deposited but remain inaccessible, starts on the day of online publication, so not on the print publication, okay? Embargoes applied to the allowed version. This was a common mistake at the beginning when the policy on open access was enacted at the University of Turin, because our authors thought that after 12 months of embargo, you can deposit the version of record, the PDF, the published PDF, which is not the case. If in Sherpa Romeo you find, like the example we saw before, the author's accepted manuscript with 12 months embargo, it means that you can deposit the author's accepted manuscript with 12 months embargo, not that after 12 months you are allowed to deposit the version of record. I hope it's clear. And if you start your path toward openness by depositing also your previous scientific production, meaning, for instance, you try to deposit a paper you published in 2018, you go to Sherpa Romeo and you see 12 months embargo. Okay, so the 12 months embargo started on the date of publishing in 2018. So they expired right now, okay? So embargoes starts on date of publication, not on date of depositing. If you are depositing now a paper published in 2016 with 4 years embargo, the embargo expired, okay? Because we are in 2023. I hope it's clear. This is a practical example. On the left side, you see the author's accepted manuscript. On the right side, sorry, you see the version of record. So the content is absolutely the same because the accepted manuscript contains also the reviews. Simply the form is different, okay? The accepted manuscript is what you are allowed to deposit. Why I insist on the green road, on self-archiving, on depositing? Because you can grow older. You can get retired by publishing on the same high impact factor journal, okay? You keep publishing on the journal evaluation criteria ask you to publish on, but then you liberate your paper by depositing in an open archive. It's always feasible, immediately feasible, with zero costs, okay? You can do it right now. It takes 5 minutes, maybe the first time 10 minutes because you have to check the policy, the copyright policy, and you have to understand it, but then it's immediately feasible. And why I say in an open archive? Because archives can be the foundation for a distributed networked infrastructure. This was the UNESCO conference on open science, which was held at the beginning of February this year. If we can create a network of institutional repository, again, we don't need journals anymore because we have the content for free and we can create services on top of that. Why I say open access repository? Because they are fair, I would say in both sense, as an acronym, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, and they are fair, as in my opinion, as you might guess, might have guessed, the current scholarly publishing is not fair. Fair as an adjective. They are fair because provide a unique and persistent identifier, and we will see that the basis of FAIR principles is to get a unique and persistent identifier. They ensure long-term preservation, meaning that if you put all your scientific production in the institutional repository, it will be there forever, okay? Not on your laptop, which can be stolen or can broke anytime. Can break anytime and something like this. So it's a value, it's an added value for you. And then the open access repository is no profit. On the contrary, ResearchGate and academia.edu are for profit. They are two of a kind, and we have two issues here because of the business model, you see. So if they are profitable, they can be bought tomorrow. Actually, there used to be a third column here named Mendeley. Mendeley was a repository, a social media platform like academia.edu or ResearchGate. It was bought by Elsevier in 2017. So they can be bought. Who can assure you that Mendeley will be always for free? Or Social Science Research Network, which again was bought by Elsevier in 2017, okay? So they are quite fine as social networking site, not as open access repository. If they are not profitable, like academia.edu is not becoming so profitable, they can close tomorrow. So what will happen about the content you put there, believing that you are doing open access, believing that you are sharing your research open access, it will no longer be there, okay? All the more so, at least at the University of Turin, but even worldwide, our authors complain, and I would say strongly complain about the open access policy. Oh, it's difficult. Oh, why should I put all my stuff in Aperto, in the institutional repository? And then they put their PDF online in ResearchGate and academia.edu, systematically infringing copyright because they put there their PDF, which is not allowed. And in 2017 and again in 2018, the commercial publishers sued ResearchGate and academia.edu, and they had a lot of PDF removed or closed from ResearchGate and academia.edu. Because if you go to Sherpa Romeo and if you read the copyright policy, it's clearly stated that you can't deposit on a commercial website. And ResearchGate and academia.edu are commercial website, okay? So you are not allowed to put your PDF on ResearchGate or academia.edu because you are infringing the copyright transfer agreement that you signed with your publisher. I hope that was clear. If you think about embargo, so this period in which the paper is deposited but remains closed, publishers say that they ask for embargo period to get back the costs for all the value they add to your manuscript, right? But if it were true, it means that they really add value, okay? So if they ask for embargo, is because they add no value to your manuscript, okay? This was clear in this sort of tweet, okay? If they ask for an embargo policy, it means that they do not believe they add any value themselves, okay? If not, if they add such a value, there would be no issue there because you would willingly pay or you will willingly wait for the text to be available on the publisher website, okay? So it's precisely the other way around, because if you compare published scientific journal to the preprint version, there is no difference, almost no difference at all, okay? So the differences are minimal. So there is no reason in asking for embargoes if not because they want to prevent you to share your content online. So this was about green open access, which means depositing your accepted manuscript wherever you published, okay? You published in Nature, then you go, you check the policy, the copyright policy, and you deposit in your institutional repository the accepted version, okay? Without harming your career, because you still publish in Nature, okay? You still publish in the highest impact factor journal. I want this to be clear because when I first presented the open access policy at the University of Turin, the then vice rector met me at the coffee in front of the university and he said, oh, you said wonderful things. Oh, that's beautiful, but I can't publish in an open access journal because I will harm my career. And I was like, okay, now I'm banging my head in the wall because I was not saying that. I'm not saying that you have to publish in an open access journal. You can publish and you have to publish in the highest impact factor journal if and until when, because you know things are changing. That's important. But until when they will require you to publish in the highest impact factor journal, you have to. And then you can deposit the accepted version, okay? I hope it will be clear. The other road is publishing in open access journal. In this case, you have to choose one of more than 18,000 open access journal listed in the Directory of Open Access Journals. 31% of these journals listed in the Directory of Open Access Journals ask for an APC, article processing charges, which goes from 205,050, to 2,900 per article. It's not so different of what you were asking even in the publishing, in the commercial publishing system, when you publish more than 30 pages, or if you want to publish colored figure. So paying to publish was quite normal, even in the past year, even before open access. What I would stress here is that 31 is not 100. So it's not true that you always pay to publish, okay? Only 31% of open access journal ask for publishing. Sometimes they are, I would say not the best, but the highest quality journal. And if they ask for article processing charges, it's because they have no subscription fees. So somehow they have to cover the costs of publishing platforms, which usually are much better than the platform of commercial traditional publishers, because they offer a lot of services. For instance, PLOS, the Public Library of Science, was the first one to offer metrics at article level, okay? The so-called article level metrics, not at journal level. So they were tracking the success of your specific journal. eLife is giving you the so-called lens visualization, which is easy to read, really effective reading tool or something like this. So they get paid, but they provide added value services. And I underline for the umpteenth time, 31 is not 100, okay? And pay attention. There is a huge difference among subscriptions and article processing charges. Subscriptions are paid every year. As I told you in the first module, the University of Turin every year is paying $4.4 million in subscriptions. Every institution pays for the same content. I mean, it's not that if the University of Turin is paying 4.4 million, the University of Chambéry can read the same journal. The University of Chambéry is going to pay their amount of million to the same publishers. They increase every year, and we saw last time that they increased by 500% in the last year. And all the more so, they close the content, because if you don't have a subscription, you can't access the content, okay? This is the main point. Your medical doctor can't access the content. The teacher of your kids at school, they can't access the content. Your psychologist, your medical practitioner, your engineer, the engineer building a bridge, they can't access the content, okay? So this is the point in subscriptions. With article processing charges, they are paid once and forever, only by the corresponding author's institution, and they open the content to all. I think this is a huge difference, okay? You pay, it's true that you pay, but you pay to open, and you pay just once and forever, okay? And just one institution is going to pay. Another important message here is please don't ever mix open access publishers, because they have no other revenue stream but APCs, and all the same, they ask for APCs only by 31% ratio, okay? Don't mix them with traditional commercial publishers like Elsevier, Springer Nature, Wiley, Taylor and Francis, and so on, offering an open options, okay? An open option for you to publish because their main revenue stream is still subscription, 10 billion per year. So they get a subscription for the same journal, and they get an APC just for one article to be published in the same journal. This is the hybrid model, which is really the evil because they spoiled the idea of open access. And you pay twice, okay? It's the so-called double dipping, because your institution pays for the subscription and for the open access article, okay? Unfortunately, I would say unfortunately, at least in Italy, the so-called transformative agreements is precisely what they are doing at the moment. So we are paying twice. They are not a good model. We will discuss in a while. But please don't mix native open access publishers with traditional publishers offering you the hybrid, the so-called hybrid options. If you want to know more, please refer to this blog post by Plan S, Why Hybrid Journals Do Not Lead to Full and Immediate Open Access. And basically, they are making this transition to real and full open access lasting 20 years, okay? It's just a way commercial publishers found to make more money out of public money in the academia. This is also important to bear in mind, because in Horizon Europe, the hybrid option is no longer reimbursed. In Horizon 2020, they reimbursed you. In Horizon Europe, they no longer reimburse you, as we will see in the Horizon Europe module on March 27. There is another model, actually, because we said gold, green. There is this so-called diamond open access, which means nobody pays, okay? Actually, it's not that nobody pays, but it's that the institution takes care of publishing, okay? So the institution or the community or the scientific society is taking care of the publishing. So they are covering the costs of publishing platform, like at the University of Turin. We have a publishing platform for open access journal whose name is Sirio, Sistema Riviste Open Access at the University of Turin. We are publishing 35 journals using this, adopting this diamond model, okay? The University of Turin also signed this action plan for Diamond Open Access with these main 4 points, going for efficiency, for quality standards, capacity building, and sustainability. But basically, this idea of Diamond is a way of publishing which is sustainable, community-driven, which is in the hand of the scholarly of the scholars, okay? It's basically taking back control over scholarly communication because we are the publishers of ourselves, okay? We are the reviewers, but we already are the reviewers, even commercial publishers. Why should we pay other publishers to provide, in some case, nothing but a PDF online? So it's a scholarly publishing model that it's equitable, community-driven, and academic-led and academic-owned. This is the real point in Diamond Open Access. And we have active 2 projects at the University of Turin, Diamas and Craft-OA, both within the Operas infrastructure, research infrastructure, to build an effective infrastructure for institutional publishing, okay? which is really, really important. There is another model which is called subscribe to open. So libraries here pays to open the content, not to close. Okay, this is an interesting model. There is also a list of journals already transitioned to this model, which is another model. It's new, so we will see if it brings something positive to the system. Just to recap, you have green, gold, diamond, and we will discuss it in a while. Green road means that you publish wherever you want, wherever the current research assessment criteria ask you to publish in, meaning the highest impact factor journal. Then you go to Sherpa Romeo, you check the policy, and you deposit, okay? In an institutional or disciplinary-based repository, not in ResearchGate or academia.edu. And then you liberate your paper. This is very important. This is how you manage not to harm your career, because you keep publishing in the most prestigious journals. You are compliant with the current research assessment criteria, but you liberate your paper, you share your paper, you enable services like Unpaywall or PubMed link out. You always have to check on Sherpa Romeo the policy, the copyright policy of your publisher. Instead, if you go for gold or diamond, you publish in an open access journal. It should be a full open access journal. Please avoid hybrid because it's double dipping. We pay twice. Only 31% asks for APCs. And with the diamond model, nobody pays, okay? Your paper is immediately open and you tear down paywalls, okay? There might be costs, okay? In the 30% of case, there might be costs. You can also go for publishing platform like preprint servers, open notebooks, and so on. They are innovative. They can disrupt the current dysfunctional system, but they are still not recognized. So you need to be brave to publish in publishing platforms or something like this, or only preprint servers, not preprint as the first step. But bear in mind that, as we said several times, in Europe, a process to reform research evaluation is going, and is going at a speedy pace. And for sure, they will include publishing platforms and preprint servers in the new criteria evaluation. Be careful when you use green and gold, because these awful, I would say, commercial publishers, they managed in the previous years to convey this idea that gold open access means pay to publish, okay? Which is not true, because as we saw, only 31% of real open access publishers ask for APCs. And I forgot to mention in this slide, but I want to go back because it's too important, okay? In this case, in the hybrid model, it's true that you always pay to publish. It's 100% pay to publish, but it's because you pay hybrid. So the journal remains by subscription. You pay for a single article to be published. Another difference is that by native open access publisher, the highest APC, as far as I know, is 2,900. In the hybrid model, the lowest is 3,000, okay? Going from 3,000 for each article to 11,500 per article in Nature. That's why one of my take-home messages was open access at any cost is not an option, okay? Is not an option, because you can't pay 100, 500 per one article. This is betraying the same idea of open access and open science, okay? So let's go back to the summary, okay, and to this idea of not calling gold and green, but fully open access and repository based. Something about predatory publishers. What do you mean by predatory publishers? Publishers which are not performing peer review, or performing peer review not in a serious way, accepting any kind of paper. Beware, because they are not linked only to open science. They existed also before. They are more linked to the research, assessment, publish or perish awful culture. Okay, so they are simply, they sort of exploded with this research assessment criteria, because sometimes, at least in Italy, for instance, to become a full professor, you should have a certain amount of publications, okay? And you need to add a line in your CV. So you publish wherever. So basically, predatory publishers, they are simply serving a demand, okay? So it's the system that became predatory, okay? And researchers are not hoodwinked victims. They choose to play the publishing game, and some can choose to change it, okay? But it's a game, okay? We saw in the first lesson that the system became a game. It's no longer the case that people are gaming the system. The system had become a game. It's time to say game over. This is then a very important message. So predatory publishing is not linked to open access. It's linked to publish or perish culture, because you need 100 publication to get tenured. Okay, this is really the point. All the more so, they are overestimated. They account only for 2 or 5% of all publishers, not open access publishers. And quality depends on editorial process and not business model. If you go to Retraction Watch, you will find more than 400 papers retracted by Springer because of false reviews. And you will find that Elsevier retracted 7 journals, not paper, entire journals, because they were sort of bulletin paid by big pharma. It was a big scandal some years ago. And if all the journals went for open peer review, if reviews were public, you could immediately judge if peer review is done in a serious way or not. This is one of the positive side effects of being transparent, because you see also the reviews, okay? You see how the review process is made. And let's think of it. If you weren't under this awful publish or perish pressure, wouldn't you be more careful in choosing your publication venue? Let's reflect on it. Let's think on it. If you want to know if your publisher is a potential predatory publisher, please refer to this Think, Check, Submit, which is asking you some question about the journal, or check if the publisher is a member of the Open Access Scholarly Publisher Association, if the journal is in the directory of Open Access Journal, or go for this Compass to Publish, which is an open service provided by the University of Liège, asking you a lot of questions about the journal, the editorial board, and so on and so forth. And then they, according to your answer, they give you let's say, a potential ratio of being a predatory publisher. What about books? It's still even more difficult than journals. You have the directory of open access books, gathering more than 600 publishers. You have Operas, this research infrastructure, trying to make open the default even in the humanities and the social sciences. You have several serious and I would say really added value service provider which are Open Book Publishers, OAP and Ubiquity Press, UCL Press. They are really valuable provider. It's still a long way to go. There is a discussion group on the Humanities Commons, which is called Open Access Book Network. And you also, if you have to publish a book in open access, you have the OAPEN Open Access Books Toolkit, again, guiding you on the over the entire research life cycle. Something about transformative agreements, and then we are going to have another break to check if you have questions. You might have heard about your institution signing transformative agreements. Sometimes, at least in Italy, when you publish with some publishers like Wiley or Springer Nature, a pop-up when the paper is accepted, a pop-up is shown saying that if you are affiliated to the University of Turin, you can get this paper published open access, even in a subscription-based journal, which is the hybrid model we discussed in a while, because all the Italian universities signed these so-called transformative agreements. In the end, at the beginning, it looked like a viable option. As you can see here, 2018, it was the 14th Berlin Open Access Conference. I was there somewhere, so I'm an accomplice of this. It seems to be a good idea based on the Max Planck Gesellschaft white paper I showed you last time. So if we divide the amount of money paid for subscription by the number of paper published every year, it seems that the money is already in the system. Simply we pay to open and not to close. So it looked like a good idea to immediately transform journals to open access journals, but they were supposed to be temporary and transitional, and they should include the commitment of the journal to become full open access in a few years, okay? Because if not, even transformative agreements are just a way commercial publishers found to make this transition to open access lasting 20 and more years. The Berlin Declaration on Open Access was 23, okay, 2003. We are 2023, so precisely 20 years later. And we are still paying 10 billion euros in subscription every year. Transformative, okay, is a way to perpetuate the publisher's control. Okay? These are things that we taught after 2018. So the theory was good because it seems that they could create competition because you pay for the single paper and you pay for the service, but it was a myth, okay? But commercial publishers managed to get money out of it. So this is a Dasapta draw. Then they made profit by making us pay to read. Then they made profit by making us pay to publish with the APCs, with strong APCs. And now we are paying both to read and to publishing, okay? Which is really nonsense. It's really nonsense. It's just a way to exploit public money out of academia. And the most critical comments to transformative agreements come from let's say, not the so-called first world, okay? Come from not from Europe and the US, because they can't afford. They simply can't afford to pay this amount of money for just one paper. So, and all the more so, the diamond model is the only viable model if institutions are paying and are providing a publishing platform, which is not a journal. They provide a publishing platform and they take care of the final step of research, which is dissemination. Okay. Even the Budapest Open Access Initiative, after 20 years, move away from transformative agreements. So transformative agreements are not the way to go. It's not public good. And Arianna Becerril Garcia clearly stated it at the Open Science Conference at the United Nations, sorry, at the beginning of February. The risk is to repeat what happened with subscriptions. The risk is to repeat what happened with subscription, to keep paying a huge amount of money to commercial publishers. So that's why, to see if we see science as a public good, we need to take back control, and as institution to provide platform for our researchers to publish their research. This is Plan S. This is what Plan S is doing. I don't know in other countries, but in Italy, Plan S was received with a lot of, let's say, critical comments. I don't know why, because you have 3 ways to be compliant with Plan S. Plan S means speed. It's a speedy transition to open access. It was created by Coalition S, which is a coalition of funders. So funders, they are finding you as a researcher. They are giving you money. I think they are plenty of rights to say what you have to do with their money, okay? So they are funding you and they are saying you need to go open, and you can go open by publish in a journal or a platform, depositing your paper, so with a repository, the so-called green route. You can go also for transformative agreements, but only until 2024, and we will see in a while. If you are funded by a funder in Coalition S, so if you have to be compliant with Plan S, you have the journal checker tool, you have the rights retention strategy, because it is really, really very important to tell your publisher that you are retaining the right to deposit your paper without embargo, okay? Which is basically what Horizon Europe is also asking you to do. And we will see it on March 27. This is important to stress because, again, there is a lot of misconception. When Plan S issued this press release, it was a few days ago. I forgot to put the link, but I will change the slide. Researchers understood that Plan S is no longer paying for transformative journals, okay? They are no longer paying for transformative agreements. That's not the case. What the funders gathered in Coalition S and Plan S are saying is that they are no longer accepting transformative agreements after 2024. As we saw in the transformative agreement theory, transformative agreements should have been short time, should contain the commitment of the journal to shift towards open access in a few years. If you think about it, it was 2018, 2024, it would be 6 years after the first transformative agreements, okay? So plenty of time to transform, to effectively transform the journal to open access. If they didn't transform in 6 years, it's just a way to get twice the money from the institutions, okay? And that's why the funders gathered in Coalition S are no longer accepting transformative agreements and research published in transformative journals after 2024. This is a very important message also to publishers, okay? Because we have been discussing open access for the last 20 years. It's an insane amount of time to transform a journal to open access. If they don't transform, it's because they are getting every year $10 billion out of it. It's clear. It's just a matter of self-interest. It's not the interest of science. That's why we should take back control over scholarly communication and not perpetuate this hybrid model, which is really the evil. Another important thing that Plan S is providing is the journal comparison service, which is a sort of, a table in which the publishers split the costs, okay? So maybe a publisher is asking you $2,000 as an APC, as an article processing charge. In the journal comparison service, you see what you pay by $2,000. So you see that you pay 500 for, I don't know, copy editing, 500 for, I don't know, dissemination or whatever, for a platform and whatever. So you see basically what you are paying for. The concept here, we have to pay and we should pay only for actual services, not for prestige. When you pay 100, if you are so, I would say, stupid, to pay $1,500 APCs to Nature just to publish one article, you are paying for prestige, because Nature is not providing services for $1,500, okay? So again, it's up to you to decide where to publish. So now we are having another 5 minutes break just to check if you have any question. So let's stop sharing this one. Is there any question in the chat? Because again, it's not. Could open access repository replace the high impact factor journal like Nature or Science? Yes, of course. The problem is, if you think of it, what is Nature doing? Providing access to a content, right? So the content is there in the repository as well, because the file is the same. Who is providing peer review? Who is providing the reviews? It's you, the authors. So once your paper is in a repository, once you allow open peer review, which is more inclusive than double-blind peer review, the content is there, the certification is there, you can comment, you can share, you can build on top of it. I would say that it's not only replace, it's that they can do it better in a more effective way, costing a few thousand a year per institution. They can really connect researchers all around the world, not just in the global north. Please go and refer to the talk by Ariana Becerril Garcia, which is excellent. The only reason why Nature and Science are still there is because you are evaluated on the impact factor of the journal you published in. It's the only reason, because they are ineffective. They cost a lot of public money. Every institution is paying for that. $10 billion per year. It's really nonsense. It's a waste of public money. They close the content for everyone who does not have a subscription. The only reason they are there is because of research assessment criteria, not because they are providing a service. I don't know if you agree, but anyway, the reform of research assessment is ongoing. So I really hope that in the near future, open access repository will replace or open access publishing platform, because we will see Open Research Europe. That's a great model, provided by the European Commission. It's a publishing platform. You publish the preprint, you go for open peer review, you publish the data, everything is there, everything is transparent, but it's a publishing platform. So peer review is done, everything is there in the workflow, okay? Simply, you don't pay $11,500 per one article, which is really nonsense. I hope you agree. You understand, okay. Also, Maria is writing a question, I think, because she's writing something here. So while waiting, Maria, it's a long question. Maybe it's better if you take the mic and you directly ask the question. Maria, are you there? Can you open your mic? Maybe it's quicker. If not, we wait, Maria, for writing the question. For your opinion, in University of Turin, the professors agree in this new methodology? I don't know. I would say they are not aware. And the proof is that we have 16 people and nobody from the University of Turin. So I think they are not aware. Maybe in Italy, you know, we have this huge and this, I would say, pervasive, can you say it in English? Pervasive National Research Assessment Agency. They sort of create a very close mentality. You have to publish in the highest impact factor journal and that's it. So collaboration is not evaluated, data sharing is not evaluated, and so on. I simply think they don't know. And what it really hurts me, it's that they don't want to know. They simply don't care. Because a lot of courses are offered. They don't care. They don't attend any course. So basically they don't know. So they are not aware. And I would say it's a pity for them. I don't know. But I have no information. I don't know if Gabriela has some first-hand information about the professors. I would say that they are completely unaware also of the rules in Horizon Europe and in Horizon 2020. And that was worst because they went to the end of the project and they didn't know that they had to publish in open access journals. And that was a mess. But anyway, the material is there, information hub is there, we have an intranet page, a lot of information everywhere, a lot of courses provided, a lot of recording of these courses. If they don't care, I can't go there and you know, oblige them to follow, to attend the course. And also young teacher, unfortunately, mostly young teacher, because they are the one to get tenured. And so they are the one to comply, who have to comply to the rules, who have to publish 100 papers in order to get tenured. This National Research Agency managed in really shape their minds. they just think about publishing in the highest impact factor journal. They don't care about anything else. And the youngest, the worst, I would say. And this is really not a good signal, I would say. Thanks for good news. No, there is no good news. Sorry. There is no good news unless the research assessment criteria will change. As I told you, the University of Turin has signed the COARA, so the Coalition for Advancing the Research Assessment. So maybe even the internal rules will change. This is a hope, because when the research criteria, the research assessment criteria will change, everything will change. Okay, I think you agree. And of course, the new Horizon Europe rules will help, because in Horizon Europe, you have to show the Commission that you are going open. So indeed, Gabriela, the new Horizon rules will help. I hope so. But it's a matter of awareness. If you are not aware that you can do it now in another way, you keep doing the old way. So it's really a pity, you know. It's a lost occasion, I would say. And even I consider a lost of occasion even the fact that today we have 11 people out of 6 or 7 universities. How many are in UNITA? It's really a pity. But anyway, what is the dentistry? I don't get the question. Maybe you put in the Menti and I didn't see it before. Is it right? So you mean some tools specific for biomedical research? She's typing. Yes, okay. So of course, in a general course, I can't give you this piece of information, but if you refer to the websites I put in the chat or in the Turing Way, or it's plenty of material out there. If you drop me an email, I can find something specific for the biomedical field. My email is my name and surname, so elena.giglia@unito.it. I can put the email in the chat. Feel free to contact me. Any other question? I hear someone with the microphone open. Is it for a question or simply? No, okay, so close your mic, please, because of the recording. Now, in the last 50 minutes, because we have no time, I can share again about something about what's going on in Europe, and then we are closing the session. So what's going on in Europe? We have a few slides, and then we are done. So basically, what's going on in Europe is that the European Commission is strongly pushing towards open science. That's why Gabriela was referring to the Horizon Europe policies, but it's not only the Horizon Europe policy. It was a sort of, I would say, it was a process started by Neelie Kroes, I would say 10 years or 15 years ago. If you want to read this paper, published 2 years ago by Jean-Claude Burgerman. Jean-Claude used to be head of the unit Open Science at the European Commission. Look at the title: Open Science, Open Data, Open Scholarship, European Policy to Make Science Fit for the 21st Century. Because this is the point. What we are getting in the scholarly communication nowadays is just a PDF online. It's just the scholarly communication we had in a paper age. On the web, we can get much more. So to make science fit to the 21st century to move science into the web age. So in this paper, you will find this important message. There is value and risk of being a first mover, but there is a higher risk of being a follower. And you can also find a sort of story of what the European Commission has been doing for the last 15 years in order to make open science the new normal, okay? Because this is what they are doing, making open science the new normal. There are also official documents. For instance, the conclusions on the Competitiveness Council, May 2016, they saw open access by default in 2020, and this is the legal basis for Plan S and for Coalition S. So it was an official document issued in 2016. Then we have the recommendation on access to and preservation of scientific information, 2018. There were several points in the recommendation, and they asked for national policies to be in place. And as we saw last time, in Italy, we do have a national policy, but just in the name. In France, you have the second national policy, which is quite effective. In the Netherlands, they have the second national policy, and so on. And they ask also for a single institution, for research performing organization to have an institutional policies on texts and on data. The University of Turin has an institutional policy for text, completely forgotten, but they don't have. We don't have a policy on data. Then there is another important directive, which is the so-called Open Data Directive. It used to be the Public Sector Information Directive. It was revised in 2019. In Italy, it was accepted in 2021. This is very important because in this directive, which foresees public data as open by default data, in this directive, research data are included into public sector data, okay? So they must be open by default, according to the principle as open as possible, as close as necessary. The important thing is that as open as possible, as close as necessary is not just a nice motto. It's included in an official directive by the European Commission. So any European country, any member state should apply this directive. Then we have this communication, the European Strategy for Data 2020. Again, they see open data by default. And then they have the Council conclusions on the future governance of the European research area, asking for the first three, we already saw last time, the first three actions of the European research area policy agenda are about open science and about the reform assessment. They also published, let's say, supporting material, like this report, Evaluation of Research Careers, Fully Acknowledging Open Science Practices, back in 2017. So I would say 6 years ago. Providing researchers with the skills and competencies they need to practice open science, again, 2017. The Amsterdam Call for Action on Open Science, 2016. The advice on the Open Science Policy Platform with the 8 pillars. And look at the first pillar, rewards and incentives, and look at the first action of the Amsterdam Call for Action, change assessment, evaluation, and reward system in science. If you look at these 12 actions, I don't know how many are performed or are acted upon in your institution. Problem is, in the northern countries, the Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, Germany, France, the UK, they went for it. So they basically started acting upon them starting in 2016. So now they are ages they are ages beyond us with respect to open science. So it's an advantage for them for Horizon Europe granting, because they have the infrastructure in place. They are changing the evaluation system. Their researchers are more skilled on open science practices. In our countries, as you can see, you provide an open science course and we have 11 researchers attending. But anyway, you have also another report on the future of scholarly publishing and scholarly communication. And you have this report, Progress on Open Science Towards a Shared Research Knowledge System. So everything is there, basically, official documents, supporting working documents. It's just a matter of a political decision within our institution to go for open science. In Horizon Europe, and we will have a specific module on March 27, as you can see here, Horizon Europe moves beyond open access to open science. Open science is mandatory, not only once the project is funded, but in order to be funded. So your project proposal will be evaluated on how you embed open science practices in your project. And you will have mandatory and recommended practices. We will have an entire module on this. Because now we have the EOSC, we have already seen this slide before. We will discuss the EOSC in the next module, in the module about data, because it's much more relevant for data. So see you next time, next Monday. We will discuss data. Do you have any question? If not, we can go back to the Menti, I think. Yes, we can go back to the Menti. Let me check in the chat if you have any question. No, so please, Maria, yes, drop me an email about the biomedical field. If not, we can go back to the Menti, whose code was 79354426. So 79354426. And the question here again is, do you think you will be able to apply and to practice what you learned about open access? I'll try to do my best. Great, but that's a great commitment. That's a great commitment. So thank you. Thank you both for attending the course and both for your commitment in trying to do your best. That's great. So really thank you. And I don't know if there is something more. Yeah, three concepts that remain after the entire course. I mean, the open science, why the current scholarly communication system does not work, open science theory, open science practice, open access, European policy. Three words that remains. So the diamond, great. The co-creation, yes, that's a great concept. Open peer review, open access repository, awareness of your right. Yes, that's a good point. Thank you for writing it. That's a good point. You should be aware of your rights. You should be aware of all the tools that are available for you to go open. And then, of course, Horizon Europe, we will see in Horizon Europe, it's mandatory. And having an open science policy should be important in our institutions. So that would be quite an achievement if the UNITA consortium can get maybe the same open science policy, and not only get, but actually support and enact it. Yes, so thank you again. I think it's all. Yeah, anything missing compared to what you expected at the beginning of the course? If not, let me check also. Let me check also the chat. Let me check the. Yes, we should co-write a policy within UNITA. But again, it's a political decision. I drafted a roadmap to open science. It's there. It has been there for 1 year. Nobody cares. So it's up to our governance. When it deals with policy and policy making, it's up to our governance. If they are not interested, we can't do basically anything. I was wrong. We can't do anything but practicing open science on a daily basis. That's what we can do in any way and in any case. So we can act as open scientists, even though we still do not have a policy. But then, of course, we should co-write a policy. It would be great. It would be a great achievement to have a common policy for the same policy for all the universities in the consortium. That would be great. So thank you for this suggestion. And if you have no longer question, you know that the slides are available. My email is available. So see you next Monday. We will talk about data management. Why should we care about data? And we will start with the FAIR principles. So see you next Monday. Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you for your attention. Bye.